Okay, welcome back to the channel, everybody. So we're going to take a look at two players irons and two cracking irons in my opinion. We've got the Callaway Apex TCB, so the tour inspired look, bit of cavity there but very much a forged true feeling sort of golf club, up against the brand new Titleist T100, which has been some amazing results with that. Fantastic looking iron, great feel. So both these irons very much aimed at sort of consistency, workability, and really sort of feel, as well as that real classic sort of look. So we're going to test these two irons up against each other with Trackman. We've got some numbers, my personal feedback on the differences, and we'll see how these two irons perform against each other. Okay, so we're going to kick things off with a Callaway Apex TCB. So TCB stands for Tour Cavity Back, so very much inspired by the players on tour in terms of the shape of the head, very compact, very minimal offset if anything at all. Sort of slim top line, compact squat head. So it's a small appearance, it's a beautiful looking shape down by that golf ball. We have got some cavity on the back, a very small amount of cavity albeit, and there's also then that weighted sort of thing. I think that's a tungsten weight in the back part, which looks like it's just then screwed in, which is then very precise on that centre of gravity, which is then all around consistency and positioning that perfectly in terms of trying to get the spin where they want to be for this type of iron. So both these irons 34 degrees of loft, so plenty of loft on these, so they're not an all out and out distance club, more around that consistency and that feel. That's a nice opening shot there with the TCB, great feel, and it's that acoustics that we expect to sort of hear off this type of iron. It's not clicky, it's not fire, it's not loud, brash, anything like that. It's, you know, it's that muted, it's that forged, it's a real sort of, it's a solid connection, but like the balls on the club face, that fraction longer. I know it's pretty, you can't really sort of feel it like that, can you? But it does feel, or it gives you that impression that the ball's just on there a little bit longer. It's not firing off like a rocket. Oh, that feels superb. It's a beautiful sound, great flight to that. Nice straight shot, which always helps. So you see club head speed 88, so I'm generally around that 90 area, just not quite as quick there, maybe just me today. Ball speed 118, just short of 118, so 34 degrees of loft. We know that isn't going to be a recipe for really getting maximising on that ball speed, but so typical what we'd sort of see from that club head speed and that 34 degrees of loft. So plenty of launch there, the spin number around that 6,000 area, you know, that's again exactly what these types of irons are sort of around, is creating that little bit more spin, that control in it lands. So you see the distance there, 168.9. As you'll have seen with my other videos, you know, I've hit 7 irons up to sort of 200 yards, but obviously the lofts are very, very different. So this is a lot of the Callaway Tour players have put in the bags. I think Ram kicked off with these. I'm not sure if he's still got them in there, but he definitely had them in at the start when he first launched. Okay, so that's a little bit skinny. That wasn't the best strike. It's come out low because of that slight low strike. See, ball speed is just going to drop a little bit, but the spin hasn't. I've lost about 4 or 5 yards there, so it's not a huge amount, but I've still got that little bit of control. So you could say there's an element of forgiveness there, couldn't you, between, you know, on that? I mean, I can clearly feel I've hit that low in the face. The feedback is right there, and that's typically what you get with these types of irons. The feedback is in there, that I have mishit it, but it hasn't dropped off hugely. That wasn't the best of strikes, to be honest. Again, it wasn't the most flush strike, but the ball flight looks really good, doesn't change massively. Yeah, it's a little bit more on that ball speed, touch on the toe there, I'm going to get really fussy, but again, that's the thing, the feedback, I was just said there, the feedback is there when you're missing that strike, but I think it's a great feel. It's a 1025 carbon, fully forged body, the whole head is fully forged. Obviously we've got this weighted plate in the back, which is obviously positioned very precise there, and I think obviously that creates that little bit of just that weight and mass behind that hitting area. Does provide it with quite a solid but soft feel, if that makes sense. I love the feedback through the club. The sound is absolutely on point. The feel of it is really good. Okay, that's lovely, superb. Great looking iron. Love the look of it, love the feel of it. The numbers seem to be pretty solid. Availability wise in the Apex TCB 3 iron all the way through to pitch wedge as well as a gap wedge, and also available left hand as well as right hand. Okay, so let's switch into the T100 from Titleist. Right, okay, so T100 from Titleist. So this is the second generation of the T100, which was originally came from the AP2. So a great looking club. I have done a full review of this hitting off turf actually at Hillside Golf Club, and that was beautiful, hitting off that links turf. These felt absolutely amazing, and the numbers were superb. It's a great looking iron. It's that very sort of player aspiring iron, isn't it? A lot of play on tour with a T100. There's a bit of tech involved in this. We've got some tungsten there again now, like with the Callaway, that's positioned right in the middle. A bit different now with the Titleist, that we've got a high density sort of tungsten plug or weight in the low toe and low heel. So they've actually split it into the heel and toe, which sort of makes a lot of sense in terms of stabilizing the head, creating that little bit more of that forgiveness. But again, in that playing position, it's that squat, better players looking club is what sort of Titleist is saying, you know, very much tour inspired. Again, the front of that hosel flows right the way through into that leading edge, so hardly any offset at all. Slim top line. And I would probably say, let's just get these side by side as a comparison in terms of the looks. The TCB looks to be a little bit more compact, but when I put the length of the grooves, the sort of satin part of the grooves, you know what, it probably is fractionally a little bit more compact than the T100. Maybe the 100 just looks a little bit longer than that blade length, but we are talking minimal amount there. But it's a great shape head, beautiful. Got that chrome satin finish, so it's not polished. Superb behind that golf ball. Let's get this first one underway. That's a nice shot. That's right down that line. Got a little bit of a line ball going on. Yeah. Okay, very sort of similar in that spin. So again, 34 degrees of loft. We're going to sort of probably see that spin number in around that sort of 6,000 to maybe sort of 6,500 sort of area. I've got these clubs made up the same with the shafts and the length and the lies, so we're identical on that side of things. The lofts are obviously the same at 34. Just got into that mat a little bit more with that one. Just pop that ball flight up a fraction higher. Ball speed just a little bit better. Launch a little bit higher. Just a touch more out of it. Again, the feel off that club is beautiful. Same with the Callaway. I think they're both in that very sort of similar feeling. Maybe I'd probably just say the Callaway might just feel again, I might be just plucking a little bit of this and just to try and split a difference, but I think maybe just a tiny bit firmer, and possibly that weight directly behind the hitting area just gives it a little bit more of that slightly firmer feel. But I tell you what, there's not a lot in it. They both feel superb. Again, just a smidge low up the face, tiny bit up that left-hand side. Not the most perfect of strikes, but we're seeing not a bad ball speed there, considering that connection. Again, that's where I think this is a really popular iron, as well as the TCB, to be honest. You know, yes, it's a small, compact head, so you might be looking and putting that down by that golf ball, and that might not feel with tons of confidence there with that squat head. But I think at the same time there, you've also got that position of that tungsten. So, you know, obviously thinking of the T100 moving on, you've got the CB iron next, haven't you? They lose the tungsten. It's just literally a piece of metal with a very slim cavity in there. And obviously then you're into the MB, which is a pure out blade. So I think this is where T100 does tick a lot of boxes for that player in that low handicap area who's looking for that tall sort of maybe compact look, but also just wants that little bit of forgiveness without sacrificing sort of control aspect of the performance of the club. That's a nice shot. Yeah, very similar flight as I'd expect. That 34-degree window feel is great. Numbers seem to be pretty good, as we would expect to sort of see. Yeah, lovely ball flight. It's a type of iron, you know, it just feels fantastic. It looks great, and it's a sort of iron that, you know, I could hit all day long and not sort of get bored of hitting it in a way. Just, you know, that buttery feel on that contact. So availability wise on these, exactly the same as the Callaways. We've got a 3-iron through to pitcher wedge, as well as that gap wedge, which the gap wedge is coming in at 50 degrees. Oops, and I lost my balance a bit on that one, but the strike was good and the direction was really good. Okay, right, so there's a batch of shots hit with both those irons, both fantastic looking golf clubs, slightly different in that compactness of the sort of sitting behind the golf ball, but I think the feel very similar. But that Callaway just being a touch firmer if I'm going to really split it. But let's go and check a few numbers out in a little bit more detail between those two irons. Right, okay, so Dispersion rings to start off with, as always. So in terms of that left to right dispersion, both pretty similar. Maybe that front to back dispersion, you can see the Titleist was very, very consistent, you know, from that longest to the shortest. Obviously that Callaway one, I've had one a bit up the left there, which we know they tend to go that little bit longer, and then just a couple peeking out. So that front to back, not quite as good with that, with the Callaway there against the T100 on that particular test. Okay, and then we'll have a look at the numbers against each other. So you see clubhead speed pretty identical there, just short of that sort of 90 mile an hour mark, typical for me. Just see that ball speed touch quicker there with that Titleist, 119 as an average, 117. Maybe that's a couple of slight low strikes. Got with the Callaway, just pulling that down a tiny bit. Launch very, very similar. Spin pretty identical, and a really good spin number there. You see around that 6.5 area. So we see the Callaway ranging from that just over that 6,000 to, sorry, just short of that 6,000 to that 6.7. You can see the Titleist there ranging from 6,230 to that 6.9. So little bit tighter, possibly on the highest to lowest on that spin number there, but both averaging that 6.5, which is good. Obviously carry number pretty identical. Titleist just and so pipping it just with that little bit of extra ball speed. Slightly higher flight there with the Titleist as well, a little bit slightly on that descent angle, so possibly just edging the numbers ever so slightly there with the T100. Okay guys, so there we go. So my personal feedback between these two irons, I like the look of both of them, I like the feel of both of them, I like the numbers they're providing. There's not a lot of difference between those numbers, is there? Maybe you could say, you know, for splitting on those 6 shots hit with each, the Titleist just pipping it with that little bit more ball speed. The spin is in a really good area, that little bit higher flight, a little bit more of that descent angle, maybe just that little bit more control over that over the Callaway, which would possibly just edge it. Then you've got to involve the feel aspect. And I say, I like the feel of both of them. They feel superb, both of those. I don't think I could really split it. Yes, the Callaway, maybe just a touch firmer, but you know what? If I got those and I played with them, they would feel really good. So that probably wouldn't sway it. Then looking at the looks of the iron, so you know, from the back of the club as we look at it, I do like both. I like just a bit more of that minimalistic of the T100, a little bit cleaner a look. We don't really, that was obviously going to change the performance at the back of the golf club. More importantly for me, down in that playing position, I think probably that what looks a smidge longer in the blade length, just that little bit of confidence. It's still a great shape there, and again the Callaway is a very good shape as well, so there's not a huge amount, but for me, just pipping it, probably the T100. Okay, post comments down below, let me know your thoughts between those two irons. What would you go for? Is that sort of an iron in your category that you would want to go out and test? Love to hear your thoughts as always. I'll try and get back to you as many as I possibly can. Loads more comparison videos coming your way, so if you don't want to miss them, make sure you hit that subscribe button, ring the bell so you get a notification. As soon as the video lands on the channel, you'll get a notification and you'll be one of the very first ones to miss it, so you'll not miss a thing. Hopefully we'll catch up with you all very soon.